Now, you're wondering why Na became Na plus. Okay, well, as you know, Na is in group 1. It has 1 electron in its last shell. Okay, now we know that this atom will not be happy because it only has 1 electron in its last shell. For it to be happy, it needs to have 8. Okay, so here sodium decided that it's easier for it to lose 1 electron rather than gain 7 electrons to make its outer shell full. All right, so normally what sodium will do is that it will donate this electron, okay, that valence electron, to another element who needs it. As a result, sodium becomes Na plus because it lost an electron, and 1 because it lost 1 electron. Okay? If we use another example, here we have magnesium, Mg. Okay? Now magnesium is in group 2. That means it has 2 valence electrons in its outer shell. Okay? Now, again, magnesium is not happy because it has 2 electrons in its outer shell and needs 8. But because it does not have 8, magnesium says that it's easier to lose these 2 electrons rather than gain 6 additional electrons. Therefore, magnesium, which is group 2, will form Mg plus 2. It's plus because it lost an electron, or it lost electrons, and 2 because it lost 2 electrons. So magnesium has less 2 electrons than before. Okay? Positively charged ions, okay, are called cations. Okay? Now which elements can form cations? So elements in group 1, 2, and 3, okay, these are metals. They tend to lose their electrons to another element. Okay, now this process happens in ionic bonding. Okay, and ionic bonding only involves metals and non-metals. Okay, so for example, an oxygen ion, an oxygen atom does not lose electrons; it only gains electrons. Okay, or shares. However, magnesium does not share because it's a metal, but it will lose the electrons. Hope this helps, and let's move on to the next concept. Now, we don't have only positive ions, we also have negative ions, okay? So for example, chlorine, it's an element in group 7, which means it has 7 valence electrons. Now, chlorine here is not full, okay? It's not happy. It needs 1 more electron for it to be complete, okay? It's 7, it needs 1 more to become 8. Now, what will it do? An element like sodium, which can lose 1 electron, will normally donate an electron to chlorine. So chlorine will become an 8. However, chlorine forms a negative ion, okay, Cl minus 1. It's minus because it gained an electron, and it's 1 because it only gained 1 electron. All right? Another example would be oxygen. Oxygen, it's in group 6, and it needs 8 electrons for it to be happy. So it already has 6, it needs 2 more. So what it needs to gain 2 more electrons. So oxygen tends to form, or group 6 elements tend to form negative ions, but usually it's minus because it gained an electron, and 2 because these elements usually gain 2 electrons. So if you're in group 6, you need to gain 2. Okay? Which elements gain electrons? Okay? Gain معناها it takes. So group 5, 6, and 7 gain electrons. Group 5 become -3 because they need 3 electrons to be happy. Group 6, they tend to become -2. Okay? And group 7 becomes -1. Group 7, they need 1 more electron, so they only gain 1 electron. Group 6, they need 2 electrons, and therefore they only gain 2. Group 5, they need 3 electrons to be 8, so therefore they gain 3. Okay? In the exam, you might be tempted to say -5, -6, and -7. This is absolutely wrong. Okay? The charge usually should include the negative sign plus the number of electrons that this element needs to become 8. Okay? Hope this helps. Hello, again, it's me again, and we're back. Now, what I want to do is I want to illustrate a few examples. Okay? Now, let's start with my favorite atom, sodium. Okay? Now, sodium is Na11, and it has a mass number of 23. Okay? In the exam, they will ask you the number of protons, electrons, and the neutrons of Na plus. Okay? Now, it might seem tricky, but this is very easy. Okay? Now, the first thing that they're asking you to do is to find the number of protons. Simple. The number of protons is usually the small number, which is the atomic number. Okay, so here we have an atomic number of 11. That means sodium, Na plus, has 11 protons. Okay, now we know that the number of protons and electrons in any given atom is equal. However, here, sodium is Na plus 1. That means it lost 1 electron. Therefore, 11 minus 1, it's equal to 10. Okay, now here, they're asking for the number of neutrons. Okay, so here we have the atomic mass, which is the big number. So to work out the number of the neutrons, we subtract the atomic the atomic number from the atomic mass. Okay, so it's 23 minus 11 equals to 12 neutrons. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so this is what you normally do when you come across any question like that. You look at the number of if they're asking for the number of protons, electrons, and neutrons, this is what you do. You look at, for the protons, you look at the atomic number, okay, and you put that same number. Then you look at the number of the electrons that you're supposed to have. If it was Na, it was supposed to be 11. But we know that Na lost 1 electron. That means we need to take away 1 electron. Therefore, sodium plus Na plus has 10 electrons. The number of neutrons remain unchanged. So what you do, you subtract the atomic number, or the smaller number. You take it away from the bigger number, and that will give you the number of the neutrons. I have given you a worksheet on this exercise, and we discussed it in class. For further examples, please refer to the worksheet and follow the steps which I mentioned in this video. This clip roughly covers everything that we discussed in atoms and ions. Hope this helps, and yeah, see you for another video. Oopsie! Now before I go, I actually remembered that I didn't mention something. Now we know that positive ions are called cations. Sorry for the horrible handwriting, but I think it's clear. So the positive ones are called cations. We forgot to mention that the negative ions also have a lovely name, which we called anions, okay? Should remind you of onions, all right? Anions means anions, negative ions, okay? Please and please do not write onions in the exam. It's tempting, but please don't. It's anion, okay? Anions, all right? So who forms cations? Group 1, 2, and 3, okay? We know that they lose electrons. And anions, who forms it? Group 5, 6, and 7, the 3 musketeers who like to gain electrons. Hope this helps. Thank you.